Dr. Kemi of Nigeria, 17th of October 2025. There's a photo that's circulating around showing some Nigerians in Russian military soldier outfits holding guns, and they are fighting the war in Ukraine. Now, that photo has gotten very controversial because some people are saying, why are Nigerians fighting for Russia in Ukraine? What if the Ukrainians kill them? What if this? What if that? It's very important that you know that any Nigerian that has left their country and pledged allegiance to another country's military is a way to get fast tracked citizenship and whatever they went to do in that country. Okay? In my days, I'm 61. In my days, you couldn't join the US Army. You couldn't join anything federal employer. You couldn't work for the IRS. You couldn't work for the FBI. You couldn't any federal job. You couldn't get in. I don't know what it is with the jobs now, but with the U.S. military, let me explain it to you because this happened to a friend of mine who filed for green cards for 4 of his siblings. Okay, and that's a very good friend of mine. I watched them all leave last November. It'll be a year now, but you can file for a green card for your siblings. Okay, it just takes a long time, but when they got the green card, they called them for the interview in the embassy, and they went to the embassy. They did the interview. Like 2 weeks later, the visas were ready. They picked up their passports at DHL and they left for America. When they landed in America, almost like the next week, my friend enlisted them into the U.S. Army. The U.S. Army is always looking for people. Because you're enlisted in the Army doesn't mean you're going to war. It means you're working in the military. Okay, you might be working at a base. Okay, when I was young, they used to offer us jobs as pharmacists in the Army. You know, ROTC was there, the U.S. Army pharmacist. Pharmacists are needed everywhere in the Army. At the base, you know, taking care of the families and the Army, and on the ships, like if you're in the U.S. Navy now, Navy pharmacists are on the ships. You know, if somebody gets hurt in a battle or something, there has to be a pharmacy there. I've just seen what a ship looks like, even if there's no battles. Okay, let's say a destroyer, USS Destroyer, a Navy ship is in the middle of the Middle East somewhere. It's like a huge house. And somewhere in that Navy ship, there's a hospital and there's always a pharmacy. So I'll say I'm working for the U.S. Navy now. You see me in uniform one day, in pharmacy jacket the other. And even at 61, okay, I've technically retired from pharmacists. Even at 61, I'm getting mail from the Navy, okay, and the Army, especially the Army. They send me a lot of stuff to come and join to be an Army pharmacist, you know, because technically I'm not 65 retirement age yet. I can continue to work if I want. Now, let me tell you, okay, about this guy in Russia. All right, let me finish with my friend's brothers. So my friend had 3 brothers, 1 sister, 4 siblings. The next week, they enlisted into the Army and they swore them in to the Army. That moment they swore them in, they became U.S. citizens instantly. That's how it's done. Okay, I know a lot of you want to become U.S. citizens, go to the Army. It doesn't work that way. You have to start with a green card first. And that process is long. I don't know how you're going to do it or who's going to sponsor you or whatnot, but once you get a green card, you can go into the Army. So when they now got sworn in as the Army, they told them exactly what they have to do. You have to stay in the Army for 2 years. Is it 2 or 3? I think it's 3. 2 or 3 years. You have to be in the Army for 2-3 years, and then you can leave if you want to leave. Okay? But if you leave before those 2-3 years, then they'll rip you from that citizenship. You'll be back to your green card status. Some people leave, you know, because they don't have the energy, drills, all that. But the main thing there is you're serving your country, okay? Would you take an instant citizenship if you're serving your country? Now, if there's a war and you have to go out, for example, the National Guard. The U.S. National Guard is guarding the nation. And this is why I have a problem with all the governors who are against President Trump sending the National Guard to their cities. They're shooting massively all over the place, Chicago, Memphis, Tennessee, all these cities with gang war. And police departments just be carrying dead bodies everywhere and they can't manage this stuff. Trump's like, I'm sending the National Guard over there. When the Army arrived in Washington, D.C., after the killings in Washington, D.C., I lost a friend in 1989, Lucky Okorua, shooting cab drivers, all that stuff. Trump said, no, this is the capital. This is where my office is. This is where world leaders meet me. No one's getting hurt here. And then they killed a member of the Israeli embassy and all that. And President Trump wasn't having it. He called the National Guard into D.C. The mayor had to succumb and work with him. And now there's peace and calm. No robberies, no this, no that. So he wants to do that with other cities. The Army National Guard is there. They come in there and boots on the ground. If you mess up, you're going to jail straight. So all these cities are calm. And that's why they created it, Army National Guard. Active duty. There's a war and you have to go. They have to deploy you to somewhere. Okay, Qatar has the biggest army military base for America, Qatar. So there's some of the U.S. boys in Qatar that live there, that work there. You remember when Secretary of War called Pete Hegseth? Hegseth called all the military generals to come home for an important meeting and all that. Okay, so you know that some of them came from abroad. So at the end of the day, the Nigerians in Russian military uniform went to Russia and they pledged allegiance to the Russian army. So they're Russian citizens. Now, if they were drafted into active duty, which is what most young people don't want to go into the service for. In America, when you're 18 and you're a male, you must register for selective services. And if they draft you, do they still do army drafts technically? No. No and yes. But if you're in the army and if you're actually in the army and you're drafted to war, you see what happens when people get killed in war, how they take care of your family forever, how the country, America is so patriotic. They fold that flag, bring it to your mom. We hope nobody dies, but you see how the army works. So people in the army, they don't pay rent, they don't pay for food, they don't pay for anything. And they have good benefits, free healthcare, free everything. So at the end of the day, you see why the ruckus is going on now with the government shutdown. President Trump said Defense Department should exhaust all the money they have, billions, to pay the army. Army families must go without no money. They have bills to pay, food to eat. I said food to eat, bills to pay, and they have, the extra paychecks, because if they don't get those paychecks, things are not going to be good. I know everything's almost free in the army, but they need that paycheck. Okay. So those Russian guys, you should be praising them instead of mocking them. Imagine they're fighting Ukraine. Ukraine is supposed to be the enemy country. So they're Nigerians, but they're not supposed to like anything Ukraine. Drones, bombs, everything. That's how it is. It is what it is. I don't know any foreigner working or in our own military, unless they were born in Nigeria. But who wants to go to the Nigerian army? Some of you will say the army is there to protect you, but our own army has controversies. There are people in our army who are actually frustrating all the mad stuff going on with the terrorists. So I just wanted to say that for these guys. Kudos to them. I don't hate Ukraine. Don't come from you. But kudos to anyone working in the military of any country. That's what they chose to do. And to my friends, siblings in the army, they're not on active duty. They're in the military bases working, teaching. They teach you everything for free. If you want to be a pilot, you learn that in the army. You learn how to fly. Pilot school is how much? Probably $60,000 a month or 2 months or whatever, dollars. But in the army, they teach you all this stuff. How to sail a boat, how to fly. You just do all. They train you in so much. U.S. Army, U.S. Marines, U.S. Navy, U.S. Air Force, National Guard. That's why you have that Pentagon. All 5 branches of the military. If you've ever been to the Pentagon, you can Google this stuff. I've been to the Pentagon. I worked at the drugstore in there in Virginia and all. But if you Google it, it looks like a pentagon, okay? The shape. Army, Navy, Aircraft. Imagine a plane landing on all that. It did with 9/11, United Airlines. So there's many stories I still have to tell you. But kudos to everybody serving the military in whatever country they are.